Good morning, everyone. So today's reading is 1 Corinthians 3, and that's verses 1 through to 11. And it's obviously continuing the themes of sectarianism and division, as opposed to what we want and what Jesus wants is unity in the body. And for the first few verses where Paul's talking and he's really rebuking the Corinthian church. And I think I've really felt that in the past when I've read this. Oh gosh, yeah, I'm not very mature. I'm still going back to the old things, or those sorts of feelings. And there is that sense, isn't there, that we all still keep learning. But I think what I took away from this is in verse 3 it talks about, but you are still carnal, and his maturity test, as it were, here is for where there are envy, strife, and divisions among you. Are you not carnal? And I was like, oh, that's the maturity test then that he's talking about. It's whether we are envious, whether we're fighting and arguing and causing division. And so I think I want to encourage you, and I was encouraged myself, that if you aren't doing those things, well, then there's a standard there of maturity. And if you are, take the rebuke on the chin. But if you aren't, be encouraged that you are seeking unity and pursuing it. And then he goes on, doesn't he? He talks about who's Paul, who's Apollos, and he goes on in verse 6, I planted, Apollos watered, but God gave the increase. And it's so wonderful, isn't it? Whatever we do, our leaders do, as we seek to establish God's kingdom and the church, it's God that gives the increase. And, that's just takes all pressure off, but also gives glory to the person in Jesus that the glory needs to go to, doesn't it? And then he says, so then neither he who plants is anything, nor he who waters, but God who gives the increase. And that reminded me of on the Last Supper and Jesus's words to his disciples in John 15, verse 5. And it says, you'll know it well, I am the vine, you are the branches. He who abides in me and I in him bears much fruit, for without me you can do nothing. And it's that Paul's echoing what Jesus has said here, isn't he? That nothing can be established without being of and in God, and it's him who grows things. And then that word fruit out of John's Gospel also reminded me of Galatians 5:22-23. But the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, forbearance, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. And again, I think that that's another hallmark of maturity, and another test of that in our lives. And I think none of us could say, could we, that we have got all of those things, every aspect of that bit of the fruit of the Spirit nailed. And so I encourage us to pursue those things. And so, and then he finishes, he goes on, doesn't he? Where is it? We are God's building, verse 9, that is. We're God's church, aren't we? And the bride, and let us reflect who God is through unity, through love for one another, through not being envious. I think as we physically are going back to meeting together, we've not really possibly had the chance to be envious of people or to be in argument with people because we've not seen so many people. But let's be on our guard against those things as we physically start meeting up. Let's just watch ourselves there. speaking to myself as well. And then the final verse says, "For no other foundation can anyone lay than that which is laid, which is Jesus Christ." And, this brought to mind so many different songs, reminding me of, not building your house on the sand, not building it on a firm foundation, the solid rock of Jesus. And just now, as I've been walking, I was reminded of that fabulous hymn, the church is one foundation. I'm going to have to Google it now and look at the lyrics, because I'm sure that they'll be full of God's truth. So I think those are my thoughts, really. I pray that we would be pursuing unity and guarding against envy, strife and dissensions, but that we'd recognise that it's God who gives the increase in all that we're seeking to establish as church and his community and his kingdom. And that we'd be building our lives on the solid rock of Jesus Christ. Lots of love. Bye-bye.